It's always a matter of kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that we are up and at them. Hey, we're kicking it over on YouTube. We're hanging out on Twitch. I think we got a little bit of LinkedIn love in there just as well. But thanks so much, everyone that might happen to be tuning in. I am super excited to be hanging out with a couple of friends and folks and gentlemen here. But we're chatting about successfully launching your NFT, talking about the security aspect of it, the tokenomics, integrating things and more. But hey, I am not really the folks that we want to see here. The star of the show is all around me. So I'll let everyone take it away. Rohan, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself for everyone listening in, who you are, what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to meet you all. My name is Rohan Handa. I'm the head of business development here at Horizen Labs. So Horizen Labs is a crypto and blockchain solution developer, helping bring the age of Web3 and crypto and blockchain solutions to the world. And more recently, we've partnered with the Bored Ape Yacht Club team to help launch their ApeCoin token.
Awesome.
Steve, how are you?
Stephen Walbroehl, one of the co-founders from Halborn. Halborn is a cybersecurity company, and we focus on blockchain, NFTs, smart contracts, and really we're a group of hackers that go to hack, find what's wrong, what kind of vulnerabilities, exploits there are to protect it. So we worked and partnered with Horizen Labs to do the ApeCoin launch there as well and make sure it was successful, among hundreds of other projects that you may have heard of, different coins, different tokens, different exchanges. And we have a team of experts here like Roberto, who's one of our senior engineers here for all this. And I'll let him talk. He's the brains behind all of the different hacks that NFTs have.
So yeah, nice to meet you all. I am Roberto, and I work here in Halborn as a senior offensive security engineer. And I am mostly focused on auditing Solidity smart contracts, and especially projects related to NFTs, pay-to-play games, and metaverse.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much, gentlemen. It's super cool to be here with you all, and I'm excited to dive in on the conversation. Rohan, if it's all right, I'd probably like to start picking your brain right away. If we are thinking about launching your own NFT, what are the things that you particularly want to consider when, hey, you're selecting a blockchain or choosing how you're really going to go about this launch? Could you mind kind of setting the stage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question to ask, given there's so much activity within the NFT space as well. So I'll take that question in two pieces. Maybe the first one, I'll break it into what do you specifically look for in a partner when you're launching the NFT project? I believe that was the first part of the question, right? So when you think about it, there are four key areas you want to dive into when you're looking for a launch partner. So first one is the team competence, right? Which goes into the understanding of the space itself. Is the team able to surface insights within the space, or are they really able to provide the value that you really need to go to market? And you need to be able to provide clear advice from day zero. Second is the communication aspect, right? When you select these partners, you want to make sure you're able to communicate in a way that is in alignment with what you are envisioning to launch into the market. And it is pretty table stake, but more often than not, you realize this is where a lot of bottleneck gets created. The third is having the execution mentality, because it's easy to boil the ocean within the space, but it's important to align with partners who are not only able to creatively strategize, but also execute on that strategy and the vision the team brings to the table. And lastly, what I just want to is typically a caution pretty much is like, do not let big names sort of hurt your project's reputation, right? You want to be choosing partners that A, believe in your project, and B, are keen on truly being your partners in the long run. So I think that's where my 2 cents, if you will, in terms of choosing the partner would be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
I'll give you the opportunity in case anyone else wanted to chime in on that. Sorry.
Yeah, we at Halborn, we're the same way with choosing partners too. We have a reputational risk sometimes with the partners because we're there to protect them. And what's really unique with the blockchain world and NFT world and this whole Web3 movement as far as security goes is a lot of this is like open to the public and open source and transparent. John, you know cybersecurity industry very well. Sometimes penetration test reports or audit reports, they're behind closed doors, top secret information, confidential. And for us, it's usually marketing materials, or we have a GitHub full of all of our different audit results, and so all the findings that Roberto has and our other engineers, it's on public display. So if we end up doing security for a project, and maybe the development team doesn't take security too seriously, or they're trying to rush through it all, just release it out there, that can become a risk, for both parties as well. So choosing partners that really care about security, really care about what they're developing and what they're releasing, that's something that we look at too with security. So I mean, with Horizen Labs, it was been like an absolute pleasure. You guys are one of the I think most methodical, very security minded organizations, and the team there too. So it's been a great pleasure, not only with doing the projects like the Board API Club and NFTs, but just the people involved too. So something, kudos to you guys for taking security seriously. Made our job a pleasure.
I love hearing all this kind of coming, hey, a little bit of an outside external perspective, right? But it's so cool in my mind to see where these kind of worlds collide, and when, hey, we take cybersecurity and all this, and it's applied to this Web3 movement and the cryptography and everything that we're up to. I have to ask, and I feel like I already know the answer to this, but I think it helps kind of continue to lay the foundation for what we're chatting about. Whether it's the Board API Club, whether it's Ape Token, et cetera, do all projects need security in some way, somehow, some more than others? Do you mind kind of filling that in just a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Speaking of the security aspect of it, when we talk about NFTs in particular, because it's about how to secure your NFT launch. One thing about NFTs is it's a new technology. People are still trying to understand what is it. It's non-fungible token, and it doesn't have to be just like a collection of art pieces or some rare art or piece of music. A non-fungible token is anything that it could be proof of ownership, proof of authenticity, and there's a lot of use cases for it. Not just with art pieces or collectibles. You can think of it as unique real world items, and you want to prove that this is the authentic one. Like if you buy, I don't know, let's say my green alligator wallet here, it's one of one in the real world, customized here. I can have a private key going along with this to prove that it's the real one, the original. There's provenance of having a transfer of, for me, if I sell it on eBay, I could transfer the key with it. Now the provenance is written on there. So it's supposed to show that this can't be copied or replicated. There's no fraudulent, unauthentic version of this one. That's a use case that, I think is starting to come out and be very apparent, where they're starting on chain, but can be applied there to supply chains, for example, or large things. So that's a long way of answering for NFT security. Is that yes, you wanted to make sure that the immutability of the blockchain stays intact, and that the things that are the use cases and purpose of the NFT is sound. It's not being copied. You can't break that logic or steal it or destroy the provenance of that and copy it. So that's all part of security. It's different aspects. Some are code vulnerabilities, some are use case and logical errors.
Not only the NFT project, the smart contract itself, I think that needs security. We also need to take into account, I guess, social networks, Twitter, Discord, everywhere, pretty much everywhere. Like lately, there was some hacking in too many popular projects that hackers made use of a vulnerability that there was in a plugin that was used in Discord servers, and they managed to trick people into fake websites, phishing websites, where people were minting fake NFTs, right? So it's not only about the smart contract itself; it's
social
everywhere.
Engineering.
Yeah.
It's all aspects of it, and that's why at Halborn, Roberto and the team here, we look at all aspects of security, end to end, whether it's the community release, the website. So hey, you're listening on OpenSea, and OpenSea had a vulnerability for that a little while ago for the listed sales. If they weren't canceled, you could go back and claim a cheaper version of it all. That's a website or backend error. So there's a lot of facets. It's not just about the code, like Roberto explained. It's you gotta think of everything and look at the defense in depth for all of it for an NFT.
Yeah, and I agree with both Steve and Roberto there, just to second it up. And that's why Halborn is such a great partner when it comes to security, right? Because blockchain in general could be very vulnerable to a number of different attack vectors, right? This could include man-in-the-middle attacks. This could include 51% attacks. So some of these inevitable outcomes of an attack like this can include eventually your loss of access, right, of data and of money, and that ultimately, where decentralization eventually gets compromised, and that that restricts the possibility of more new players coming to the market, and eventually hampers the project that's become vulnerable to those kind of attacks. So it's super critical that we look into this at a much deeper layer.
Yeah, and also sometimes the vulnerabilities, if it's released early, because of the nature of blockchain and decentralization, it's immutable, which means it's once it's written on chain, it doesn't come off chain. Things can't be reversed. Speaking to NFTs in particular, a lot of the hackers, and including myself, in the early days, we tried to hack games like Half-Life or Diablo, and like dupe the gold or make an extra skin that unlock that skin early. And okay, that's you hacked it, but it doesn't impact anybody. It's on your computer. It's like centralized there. It's no like real world like value that can be like taken from that. Now, if some of the findings we have on some games, an NFT sword that I just bought this sword for like $2,000, this NFT sword, and if the code is wrong, Roberto can go on there and burn that person's sword and burn that person, just like destroy all the items, and it's like that was real money and I can't get this back. And so it's a whole new world of vulnerabilities now with when you bring NFTs into the mix on gaming.
That's one of the most wild thing in my mind, is that like, okay, again, as you mentioned, Steve, and I come personally from a little bit of that cybersecurity world in the traditional sense, if I may say.
Ooh.
So when we take it to this stage, it's real money. There's legitimate financial value that's sort of in the balance there. And that's a crazy thing when, hey, maybe we forgot a semicolon to completely trivialize this, right? That I'm playing nice, but
oh no, you're not
real intentions.
It's not untrue. I think I did a talk with Sands about like how to lose $200 million with one line of code. And it was one line of code was a parity wallet that the library got locked, and everybody's multi-sig wallet was then pretty much bricked forever.
So, hey, let me throw another kind of softball here, if that's all right. When we're launching, right, at what point in the project, where should and how should security be a priority? I say this as sort of a softball, right? Is it, hell, when maybe we're thinking about it right as we're flying by the seat of our pants, or is this something beginning, before, during, after, etc.? How is it baked in?
Yeah. I could talk about how we think of it, and then maybe Rohan can say
yes,
how they implement it at Horizen Labs. There's this concept of like shift left. If you've ever heard it from like DevOps, it's always you try to get things shift left, like take care of automation earlier in, try to like find problems early on in the development and the functional use. We think security is the same way. You don't want it to be an afterthought where, all right, we've coded, it's all good, it's done. All right, we're going to go live next month and let's do our security test. It's like, all right, what happens if we actually find something right before launch? It's going to like blow the whole date, the launch dates. And sometimes you'd say, well, we still have to go live, and now you're going to go out vulnerable. You get one shot at a release sometimes before it's done. So we like it say as early as it makes sense to do security from maybe even before code. You want to do an architecture review. Like, does the architecture make a lot of sense? Is there any risks in the way we're thinking of the approach? Security awareness. So as you're building this, secure code training, knowing how different NFTs work, if it's like in ERC 721, and think about the gas fees and how much it's going to cost. Like there's something to consider for security all the way from the very beginning up to the very end of the launch of securing the community involved. So I have to say unbiasedly that security should be in every part of the process from the beginning.
Yeah, I can agree more. I think security and making sure the code is audited is super crucial, right? And when we talk about the involvement of the security auditors themselves, I think it's about as soon as the business requirements are identified and confirmed, I think that's the stage where we want to bring the auditors in, right? So we have some level of understanding of, as Steve was pointing out, how do we architect this, right? There could be a lot of value add in bringing them early and kind of brainstorming what are some of the potential vulnerabilities or the code issues that can arise as a result of the business requirements that have been frozen. And in some cases, you bring in when the code is complete, which is to say when the code is internally tested, but not yet released to the public, right? So this is another great point of interjection for auditors to come in, kind of help identify vulnerabilities, to see if there are any kind of backdoors that are available, which would be exploited once this things goes into the wild. Because as you know, the nature of the space is technically anyone can go and audit your code in the backend, right? Because it's available. So you don't want to be in public and then find a vulnerability after it's on the in public eyes. And you want to make sure any open loops or holes that exist kind of get plugged in before it's released to the public. So I would say sooner the better, and over communicating in this case with the auditor is the most essential thing you can do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of the first things we did with you guys when we started engaging with Horizen, it was a security awareness training on NFT vulnerabilities. So I asked Roberto, who's like front lines and sees all the latest hacks, sometimes finds these himself. It's like, can you quickly put a list together of all of the latest NFT hacks, and let's like make a, what caused it and how can you prevent it? And we created kind of like these like top like vulnerability types and examples of them all that Roberto's did a great job of compiling all that to make an awareness training for it.
And also related to Rohan said that I think that it's very important that any business requirement change is informed to the auditors, even if it looks like it's a very minor change, right? It could cause like a critical functionality. And I can put you an example with this. Like, I remember the first project that I ever minted. The project was really popular, and there were way too many people in the Discord that were going to take part in that public sale. And basically everything went wrong after the public sale started. Those guys had like a limit of 10 NFTs per wallet as a maximum. And all the whales were trying to mint 10 NFTs. But what happened? MetaMask has a default gas limit of like 1,200,000 GWA. So that's the default for MetaMask. And if you mint 10 NFTs, the gas cost for minting 10 NFTs is exactly something like in that contract was exactly something like 1,200,050, something like that, a little bit above the limit. So all those whales were getting their transaction reverted in Etherscan. They were losing a lot of money in the gas cost, and they were so mad that they were like, okay, this project, I don't want to be part of this project. I will not mint. So that's how that project was ruined. And after that, all the public sale people decided not to buy, and they didn't manage to sell their total supply just because that single mistake. If they had put, instead of a limit of 10 NFTs, 9, that would not have happened, and the project would have been much more successful. So
yeah. I think this is a one of the examples here, like a visual one from the training here, is the gas cost function greater than a default, right? So you can see here, if just like you're saying, Roberto, if you make a bundle and the gas cost is higher, you can end up like losing it, and it'll just like revert and fail for that. Maybe you talk about like some of what we're looking at here and what happened.
This is wild to see. Do you mind just giving me a little bit more? Hey, kind of. I don't know. Can you explain like I'm 5, if that's all right? Kind of what you see on the left and what's on the right here?
On the left, you can see that MetaMask by default has that gas limit, right? And on the right, you can see that the transaction was reverted because the users, when using MetaMask, were using the default configuration, that MetaMask had. So they didn't put enough gas to mint those 10 NFTs. So the transaction failed. The issue here was that the developers didn't inform the users that they will have to manually go into MetaMask and modify this value. And people were really mad because when a transaction reverts, you are paying for the gas, but you're not getting the NFTs minted in your wallet. So they probably lost there's something like $400 in just gas fees for nothing.
Goodness.
Wow.
Yep, that's wrecked. So something to look for now.
So could I go out on a limb and say, hey, you know, these are the things that you can be aware of and be preemptive for with an auditor? Is that fair to say? And now, what can I ask? What sort of is the criteria when you're looking for that audit? Is there anything that might be a red flag? Is there anything that might say, hey, these individuals really know what's up? Is it just a matter of being in the know? Is it just a matter of being with it and in the scene? Or how is auditing an NFT and tokens different than any other projects that might be out there in the space? Sorry, I know there's a lot to unpack there, but I'd love to.
Yeah. No, makes a lot of sense here. You know, showing these things here, it's really, for this particular example, it's the code and seeing like, hey, is this code have a vulnerability here? I see the screen here, like the particular one that's highlighted, you know, require number of tokens, max purchase, keep going into 1 token. This would be something that Roberto would find and be like, oh, this may be a gas limit, you know, one here. Is that right? And any other color to like this mint function here, Roberto, you would see?
I don't see anything wrong in there at the moment. But just you know, the transaction revert. That was pretty bad.
Yep, that's it. But you can see on the bottom, like all the transactions for every 10 minutes, it would just fail. Those red ones on there for it. So that's like a a requirement for it is code prevention inside of the contract itself to make this not happen to users, because most of the time people minting NFTs are they're trusting that the code has been reviewed and audited, or the developers have thought this through and tested it and secured it. They're not going to audit the code themselves and go mint things and check the gas limit. They're just going to go in and YOLO in.
There are even more things than the code that you should take into account, like how popular the project is. Like another example, like there was an exploit that was done the last year to an Adidas collection, and basically that collection that had like a limited supply, and there were too many people that wanted to mint, and basically what one very smart guy did was deploying a smart contract. From that smart contract, he deployed another 20 or 30 smart contracts, and from those 30 smart contracts, he minted the NFT. So he managed to bypass the limit for each others, and he spent a lot in gas cost, but he made a lot of profit there. Yeah, it's also in those slides.
Yeah. So maybe we could. This is the very famous Adidas originals.
Steve, do you mind full screening that one? Does it let you go, hey, take over the full screen for the slide?
Yeah, I hit this one here. It's the rescreen here when I hit the full screen. Let's see.
It eats.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of code on this one. Let me check this out. How's that look right now? Better?
Coming there, I think so. I'm not sure if
it's
another monitor.
Take a screenshot and zoom in and blow it up later on. I'm so used to Zoom, so I just know what the Zoom's doing, the rescreen full screen share of it all. But yeah, this is one for that. What Roberto is, bypassing mint conditions when it's executed, and I can zoom in here. How about this? We'll look at some of this here on the what's going on down here. Roberto, we could explain this one.
Yeah, so there was a limit of users were able to mint a maximum of 2 NFTs per wallet. So the attacker was very smart and said, okay, so I just need a lot of different addresses. How can I get them? So the way to get those addresses was deploy a smart contract. From that smart contract, deploy a lot of smart contracts. I think that it was more than 200 from what I read there. And now I have 200 different addresses. So now let's make use of them. So he minted from those 200 smart contracts 2 NFTs, and in a single transaction he managed to mint 400 NFTs, around 400 NFTs.
Now what's unique about this is it costs a lot of money to do this, like the gas fees for it. Like this one was $250,000 in gas fee, but it's almost like a speculation aspect to it. And I was like, if I pay this much gas fee, is it will the NFTs, will I make a profit, from owning this many here too? And he did, around 600,000, I think, from all that.
It's wild.
Pretty crazy, yeah. Yeah, so it requires a little bit of a Solidity development code knowledge to make a smart contract to generate these child contracts, and then after that, use that child contract to purchase it, and pretty much it was like, how did somebody buy it so fast? It must be a bot. Well, not really a bot. It's a smart contract. That's doing it for you.
I see one question that has kind of come through in the chat, and I don't know if you'll be able to interpret it in the right way, but there's a question. Hey, how do you prevent something like that if they are all unique addresses? Does that extrapolate well in your mind, or what are you thinking?
Yeah,
Well,
you can just force in the smart contract, put a required statement in the smart contract that checks that TX origin is the same as message sender. So basically, with what you do with that required statement is that you are not allowing any smart contract to do calls into your NFT project smart contract. So you can avoid that. Yeah, that's it. You can see in the slide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that first one.
Extra code.
Yeah, so TX origin. What you saying? Roberto saying is like, make sure that the message sender, the person sending the request to purchase that to mint it, it's if you make a child smart contract from the original request, then that address is going to be different. You're going to create, Roberto, you mentioned like 200 addresses, like child addresses from that. So that's not, it's like not like whitelisted in a way. So you want to make sure that the origin is the original caller. So it's only one time. And I think there's a couple other preventative things too, right? These other two, Roberto, are ways to protect it.
There is another way that is, the second point that is shown in the slide, but there is a way to bypass that one, which is by minting from the constructor of the smart contract. That will bypass that. So the safest way here is, I guess that's the only safe way to avoid this is the first point. The second can be bypassed.
Wow. The ever-changing world of blockchain security, where 0 days every day.
Well, hey, huge props for a little bit of that engagement and interaction in the chat. I think that was pretty cool to just get a little extracurricular thing to sneak in there.
Are we scaring you, Rohan? We're like, this is
no. I think this is great. Now, from what I'm trying to see is this is the kind of work we really need to put in to make sure projects that are super big and going to the market, they go out in the right way, and that's where security plays such a massive role.
That is the next thread I kind of wanted to tug on, if that's all right, Rohan, because I wanted to pivot back to you, give you some more time in the limelight here. But can I ask whether it's you or if it's your developers or it's all the other hands in the mix of putting together this project and eventually going out for launch? Are these all things that you're always cognizant of? Do you remember each of all these odds and ends of, hey, whether you're carving this out in Solidity or Rust, etc., or is that again the sheer value in getting the audit and getting more people kind of understanding how this thing is baked and built together under the hood?
Yeah, I think by the nature of the industry and the space that we operate in, these questions are super critical right from the get-go, right? Because one of the core aspects of partnering with Horizen Labs and in conjunction with Halborn, we want to make sure that the partners that we bring on, they're getting the best service, the best launch experience for their specific projects, right? And the security and auditing plays a very critical role because we don't want to have experiences where we're launching out with a project and eventually it either gets hacked or there's some sort of a 51% tag or some sort of aspect that blows up the entire project, because there's a huge reputational risk that's at play, both for the project that has developed a community of followers who want to see them succeed, and for us here at Horizen Labs, and by virtue of which all our vendors and third parties that we interact with, and Halborn being one of them, to make sure there's no reputational risk for our business as well. So we want to go out with the approach where we are safeguarding the reputation of both our partners and our third-party vendors and partners, including security, some of the institutional partners, as well as contributors who help kind of bring that launch to life. So it's super critical. We think about it on a daily basis, and it is aspect of our project launch mechanism from day one itself.
Yep, definitely. Part part of also working with a security vendor, we have perspective into hundreds of different projects that have different types of vulnerabilities, different flavors of NFTs or smart contracts. Halborn, we do auditing not just for Ethereum-based contracts. We do Solana, so those are programs in Rust, and so there's a lot of variation and a lot of different security issues that can come at a code level, that may apply on one but not the other. But that broad perspective of different approaches from different developers, different teams, our customers like Horizen, you guys get that benefits. We get those different perspectives to come and say, hey, you guys are doing great, but we just audited this one last month, and we recommend that you prevent it in this way. So you're kind of getting all the sums of all of that together in one output to provide the extra value for it. So that's part of the fun involved with it all, to help give you what you need to make sure it's secure.
Yeah, and also for Horizen Labs, since we're agnostic of the blockchain we help our partners build on, this is where Halborn and the expertise come into play, right? So whether you're building on Solana, whether it's on Polygon or Ethereum or whatever underlying blockchain it be, security aspects may vary slightly from code to code, whether you're building on Rust or is it Solidity and so forth. So we want to be able to provide the simple but yet secure solution to our provider, to our partners. That means a robustness in the smart contracts is a key contributor when it comes to the overall security, right? That's provided by the underlying blockchain technology. So it's super critical from that lens too.
Yep. Sometimes we'll see projects that we come in. Well, I've seen them before, but just not really doing smart contracts. Like, hey, look at my NFT collection, and it's just a bunch of like images on an S3 bucket. It's like, no.
Well, hey, thanks. I know we've been chatting a little bit about more on the security aspect of it in a very abstract way, but I'd love to kind of boil it down if that's all right, because getting to the specifics here, right? What is ApeCoin, if I may? What's the utility of ApeCoin? How does that bring, or what does that change for the Bored Ape Yacht Club? What value would that strategically bring? If I could kind of pick on you, Rohan, a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think the utility is a critical question when you're launching a fungible token, not just ApeCoin in this scenario, right? So when you think more broadly of what a fungible token launch looks like, you always want to tie it down to the utility that comes with it for the broader community. Whether it be launching a game, whether about thinking about the metaverse, whether it be about the governance aspects or staking, all of those essentially become part of the broader question of the fungible token launch and the utility that underlies. So in ApeCoins, for instance, those were some of the critical points we talked through. What does that utility look like at day one and beyond, and what the community itself can do with it? So those are some of the critical underlying utility questions you want to talk about when you're thinking about a fungible token launch, so to speak.
Yeah, so the ApeCoin itself, this is something, the utility, it's a governance token is like the functionality for it. And governance token, there's a concept of a DAO, which is like a decentralized autonomous organization, and it's essentially, think of it as like a voting ticket. So by owning ApeCoin, you can participate in a governance board or a voting committee. It's a membership that can, as you see here, like explains itself to communicate. You'll be able to pick different projects. A DAO, what they do is they submit proposals. So all of the holders of ApeCoin will have a proposal like, hey, what kind of sponsorship do we want to get next? Which clubs should we have our membership party at? And people that have have these coins, they can submit their votes on the different proposals. So think of it as a like a democracy in a way, and the more coins you have, the more vote power that you can have. So that's really what a governance token is used for. Other ones on there are like Uniswap. They had a governance token, Uni, to talk about. So it really drives pretty much drives the future of of what's going on with ApeCoin. And I think there's a couple of proposals right now that are out there. So like ecosystem fund allocation and the process, 1 year budget. So these are all all things that you can even see like how many people are against or in favor of it. So 15 million ape coins or holders of ape coins voted in favor, and 113 there. So this is what ApeCoin does. This is the utility of ApeCoin here, and what it's really used for.
I think that is fascinating because in my mind it gives you basically a seat at the table. Like, hey, you're on the board of directors here. Is that the right understanding?
Yep. That's the concept of a DAO, and DAO it's not unique to just ApeCoin itself. It's a DAO is a very novel concept that has been around since like the early days of Ethereum. And think of it as a way to decentralize or democratize, voting for things. So, the ApeCoin is not a NFT itself. There's a particular, standard for what that is and the governance token. But that's it's part of that whole ecosystem for it. So now you have an NFT, and the people that own the NFTs, the mutant apes and the bored apes, they were given a certain allocation of the ApeCoin at the launch. That was what we had helped to protect. So, and it's based on like the value of it. So you were given this. If you have a bored ape, then you have higher vote power than a mutant ape because of the value. So you become, your votes are a bit more important because you have more at stake, with the community or with the project here. So it's a total ecosystem fund. I can link this to security because you can do governance wrong too. This is something that's the largest hack early days of Ethereum was on the DAO, which was a crowdfunding thing. We can talk about that, if you'd like to later on, but that's a whole nother, how to secure your DAO this would be the next topic.
Yeah, and just to Steve's point, right, especially in the DAO, it's almost akin to setting up your own nation state in a way. So think of the earliest days of when you're banding a group of followers and contributors together to carve out the governance systems, like how should certain things be governed, what should be built, how it should be built, who should be charged. These tokens essentially enable you to do that in DAO itself, right? And the community as a whole has a voice as to what gets built, what doesn't get built. So as you saw, the AIPs 1, 2, 5, those are those proposals that were set forth, and the community and the voters who were the holders of those ApeCoin were able to vote whether they want to move forward with a certain proposal or not. And then next comes the execution piece.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. And security related that there's been instances of malicious proposals. So they all, it's a majority attack. It would be the vulnerability category for that, where the majority of ApeCoin holders can outvote the rest of them to say, hey, we want to put a proposal where these people get all of the ApeCoins and these people don't. And then 51, 52, whatever people vote for that. And all of a sudden, like majority attack. It's like, I took over the board of the directors here.
Can I ask which of those potential mistakes, missteps, gotchas might be the most common, or what is, if there is even such a thing as like low-hanging fruit, or the most likely, most common thing that, hey, could be, whoops, we totally didn't foresee that in our launch or whatever that we're working through. What would be the best advice and best things to look for and look out towards?
I'll start to give my perspective on it, and then let the other security expert here chime in on for a DAO specifically like this, and for let's say ApeCoin, then go to NFTs for ApeCoin. Malicious proposal is not necessarily intended though, so you do an upgrade to the contract. Like, we figured out that the formula of distributions doesn't work too well, and we want to change the reward allocation a bit, and they change the code. And then they vote on the code, like, yep, this makes sense. Everybody votes for it. It gets put out there. And then it's actually exploitable. There's a flaw in that upgrade. And this happened to Compound. Compound's a big, token that's out there, but they also have like a rewards and lending and distribution. There was a flaw in the Compound Act, and they had to, the proposal was flawed in the way they did the rewards. So that's the most common. And I think that we, it's something that you could see pretty clearly if you really like take the time and have like a proposal audited before it goes into. Now, what's your perspective, Roberto, on like common things maybe on NFTs that you see?
I'm super keen on Roberto's because I know, hey, you're on the front lines there. What do you think?
Yeah, he's the code master.
From my past experience related to DAOs, the main problem perhaps is flash loans. Like some user takes a flash loan, increase its voting power, and in the same transaction, he managed to create a malicious proposal, vote for it, and he has so much voting power because he just took a flash loan that the proposal will be approved automatically. So he can just take control of the whole contract, or no one will be able to stop him. That's one of the main vulnerabilities that can usually be found in DAOs. And related to NFT projects, here it's not very common to see a hack where you can just drain all the ether in the smart contract, or where you can just mint for free. That's not very common. The most common bugs here in the NFT projects are more related to, let's say that there is a total supply or 1,000 tokens. An attacker exploits a rentrancy and manage to mint to bypass that total supply of 1,000 tokens. Or, for example, if the NFT project is using some different logic, like generating random numbers and so on, people can abuse this, and it can really get it can get very bad. Like I saw one project. This was not a Halborn audit. I usually follow some NFT projects, and one day I just saw a message in a Discord chat, and people were talking about, oh, there is this project here that it's giving people back the price that they pay after they mint. There is a chance that you recover what you paid for that for that NFT. And I was like, let me check that smart contract and see how they implemented this. And yeah, I checked the smart contract, and I immediately saw that that contract was vulnerable. Basically, they were generating a random number, as you can see now in the screen, which the block timestamp, block difficulty, and the address of the, well, in this case, this is the exploit itself. They were using the address of the people that was minting. So as soon as I saw that code, I forked the mainnet, and I tried to build an exploit for it in my fork environment to see if I was able to exploit it. And I managed to, well, I don't want to get too technical here, but there is a function in Solidity called create2 that allows you to pre-compute the address that the smart contract is going to get without even deploying. So what I did was creating a smart contract, and I created a function that was in a loop calling the create2 until I got an address that was winning that little lottery that was there. And once I won that lottery, I called the NFT contract and managed to get to trick what they call there the Santa algorithm and get back the price. And they did not only have that bug, they have an extra bug there, which was rentrancy. So I could put together those two bugs, the rentrancy and the weak random number generation. And with that exploit, I could drain all the funds in the smart contract. So as soon as I have that,
loop it, and then when you're done with your loop, go back into it again and loop it again, and then go back. Yes, loop the loop.
Yeah. So basically, you could drain all the ether that was in the contract that at one time was like 6 ether, I guess. Wow. And yeah, I sent a message to the owners of the project in Discord, and as soon as I told them that, they stopped that functionality. Luckily, they had put to stop it, and it was not exploited, and they were very thankful for that. But things can get really, really bad if you're adding some extra functionality like this one.
Yeah. Yep. This is the thing that we see, John, and each day here. It's yeah, we like to protect everybody, protect the world from these like really complicated, novel hacks here, and it's I think it's providing a lot of like value, helping everybody with this, and letting the whole community kind of rise and embrace this, rather than having it be wild west of like complete like losses and people losing their funds, because everyone works hard for this stuff too. So it's protects like the paladins of code for it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it exactly is the wild, wild west, right? So, and it just gives you more perspective as to why we work with partners like Halborn to provide that security blanket when we're working with different projects, because there's so much still to be discovered. As you said, Steve, like every day is day one in terms of development and security breaches. You never know what can happen. So, super grateful to have you as a partner as well.
Definitely, yeah. When we're trying to build some tools too, like easier to use tools. We're doing in security. There's a lot of preventative services to pen test and risk assessments, and these are services that using our brain power. And we've been working on some tools, some products that will help all of this stuff as well. So those are soon to come here, and hopefully that'll add even more value for everybody to be able to utilize to protect their own funds or projects to protect it for their communities.
Well, I'm really glad you kind of, in my mind, you hit the nail on the head there with kind of a couple of those last sentiments, Steve. Is like, hey, you know what? Like, this could have all gone way, way south, right? When you find a vulnerability, when you see some potential weakness or flaw, and to Roberto's credit, hey, you kind of do responsible disclosure. Like, hey, you go tell the maintainers and the organizers, hey, something's up, and you are coming in as the good Samaritan to kind of solve that problem before stuff really blows up and money is down the drain. So kudos to you and all that front. And I'm very, very happy to hear that. And I love especially that notion you had there. And on the scenes that I am with in the cybersecurity space, they say a rising tide raises all ships.
Correct.
And that's why we do this education. That's why we get this information out there. And I'm so glad everyone's here to learn a thing or two just as well.
Yeah, we love education. That's the fun part of all of this. Is it's so new. People are still learning these things, and you can learn by mistakes, of course. And it's the experience that helps you grow to be more secure. Myself and everybody at Halborn, we love Web3. We love blockchain. We love all of the problems that it can solve, but also all of the new things that it's creating for opportunities or community development for gaming. And we want to see it succeed. So having security is one way to provide value and help change the ecosystem a bit, because it is very new. Coming from the traditional security world, John, like yourself and me, it's the approach is just, used to have to go in and into a network and move laterally after phishing to steal the credit cards out from Active Directory, and then you could sell it for a couple, $5 on the black market. But now it's, hey, I found one line of code and $200 million in a transaction, all done, all in days, black hat days work.
Well, hey, friends, I think we're maybe at 10 minutes left until the top of the hour. So what I think, and I want to leave the open floor for you to tell me if, hey, maybe we could go in another direction. But I'd love to do one last, hey, round robin, ask what are your parting thoughts? What are your last words and advice on, hey, what is the best thing to do when you're successfully launching your own NFT, whether it's security, whether it's tokenomics, etc. And then I think maybe we could take some time for questions. If anyone did have anything in the chat, anything we just want to grab onto and chat about a little bit more. Everyone okay with that, or is there a different direction we should go for the last couple of minutes?
Go for it.
Silence means yes. Okay.
I'm reading through the questions right now. I'm going to see which ones I can answer. Perfect. Here. And Rowan wants to do the launch question, and I'll see if I can find a technical question here in the chat.
Cool. Can I ask, hey, what are your parting thoughts, if I may?
I would say do your own research on a lot of things here. There's a lot of Twitter nonsense that I see all the time. I can't escape. One Twitter post ends up with 50 comments on whatever this thing is here. The blockchain and Web3 is open and permissionless and decentralized, which is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing too. Anybody can mint any token. They can even find ones that look like others. So if you ever go on OpenSea, the amount of Bored Apes there are just everybody has one on the outside and looking at it. The non-fungible one, the originals that was made by Yuga Labs that we protected. That's that's the real one, but people get tricked. They see it's like, oh, that's the ape. I saw that on TV. Oh, I saw that. This is the one. And they buy it thinking they're getting a good deal. So, that's permissionless. Anybody can make their own NFT and they can take the images and do what they want with it. But, do your research, make sure you know what you're buying, what you're getting involved in. I think that's a big takeaway.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree with what Steve mentioned here. And on top of that, like, it's so easy to mint the token these days, right? You have so many different launch pads and anyone can go and mint it. I think the projects that are typically successful are the ones who put in the effort to figure out what are the security aspects underlying. Are we doing things the right way? Do we have a proper project roadmap or a timeline based on which things will come, whether it be multiple different NFT drops, or do you have a token on the roadmap, or is there a DAO? And openly communicating with the community that's part of your ecosystem as well. And lastly is, what's the utility that you tend to offer? Because more often than not, what you realize is, beyond the security and the smart contract development, because it's such a tech-heavy space, you often miss what's the utility or the business or the value proposition you're offering, right? And it's very easy to get misguided and just try to boil the entire ocean. So it's very critical you think critically about what's that utility you're able to offer, and then design the tokenomics or the metanomics behind it in a way that aligns with that future vision, not the other way around.
I agree. And I wouldn't be able to end a stream anyways without showing our ape. Yeah, so
Ooh.
here is and I make sure that I bought the right one, right? So so here's our Halborn board ape that we have here, 7390.
Excellent.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I think that Horizen is aped in too. Yeah.
We did, yes, we did. We have. I wish I had the access to it. I would love to show, but we have an astronaut ape. So.
Yeah. So yeah, to verify, do I have the right one? This is all on the blockchain, so you can go to the contract address and verify that it's the correct Bored Ape Yacht Club token here. Okay, and then look at the code. This is the back end, for the apes. And ERC 21 transaction. You can see all the trades going on for those NFTs. So verify it that way to make sure it's not something random. I'm sure the Bored Ape Yacht Club itself has received many apes itself for that are not the true apes here, in its own wallet. So yeah, OpenSea, luckily they have the blue check mark now, for it, just like Twitter and stuff. So that helps as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the lowest hanging fruit, if you will, right? Like, so you can name whatever project, call another Bored Ape Yacht Club, and you don't see that blue check mark. And I think that's a good enough red flag just from a basic layman security challenge, right? So
Yeah.
definitely be looking out for those signals.
That's the one that I needed. I needed the blue check mark to know. So I mean, that's good lessons learned for me, at least.
You're gonna want to audit the code and verify it on Etherscan, John. We'll get you there.
You shouldn't really trust that much that blue
yeah?
check mark. There was tags around it still. So
I take that back. I take that
good
back.
can of worms at the very end. Good.
I don't remember exactly the website where they did it, but some people managed to create a ERC20 token in a website, and they put like some characters in the name, and the token appeared with that check mark in the exchange, and people were buying that ERC20 token, and they lost their money.
Wow,
So,
they
be
take
careful with that
the
too.
like the UTF code translation of that blue check mark to render it on front end. That's brilliant.
Gentlemen, I think we have the topic for our next webinar together, right?
oh yeah.
Good show for that one.
Speed dial
cool.
Roberto for any security checks and NFT purchases.
Yeah, tricky. I mean, it all comes down to this. Social engineering is always going to be there. People, unfortunately, are usually the weakest link, and social engineering, phishing has always been the number one way to get like a foot on there. With all this, technical code, finding an exploit or RCE, those are always like very elite, so to speak. But what hits people the most is just a simple, I clicked a link, and this is kind of like a new version of that, where it's people. I joined the Discord and bought the fake one.
Mm.
Cool.
Well, alrighty.
Yeah, so that's my thoughts on all of it here. Yeah, if you have any questions here, the interesting ones that you see, John, that maybe we should go into?
There was one I think would be really kind of nice to touch on, but only if you're comfortable with it, right? There was a notion, hey, are there other companies that do cybersecurity on blockchain or other Web3 projects, right? Who could be other auditors, etc.? Obviously, hey, I do want to sing the praises of Halborn, but there are others, right?
Listen, we've done collaborations and peer reviews with others. Hey, it's always when you auditing and testing is an art, and every artist has their own approach to it. So there's nothing wrong with getting multiple audits. I mean, even with Horizen Labs, there's the other audit partners. We never shy away from that. I think that means they really care about it. It's a trust it, but verify, type thing. So having multiple verifications is fine for us. And some of them we've worked with before. Sometimes we refer them to others because it's something we don't do. Like we don't do forensics, much right now, or going chasing down the bad guys. So we refer that to them. And then others don't do Rust testing, and we do. So I think it's always okay to get multiple perspectives on that.
You said a key word some time ago, maybe at the halfway point during our time together. It was defense in depth. Yes. And that's another, hey, awesome, great security stamp that I think is important to hone in on. And when you're chatting about trust but verify, and we're talking about, those social engineering, deception, and phishing schemes, I know all of this sounds like, hey, boring boilerplate cybersecurity hygiene, but this doesn't go away. Hey, we've got this exciting new frontier with the whole Web3 stuff and the tokens and everything that we're launching, but it's not moving over, and we still got to embrace it. We still got to keep it together.
Fundamentals are still there. Yeah, still the CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, availability. If your funds aren't in the pool or your NFT is not there anymore, it's an availability problem.
Well, alrighty, everyone. I know we are closing in at the top of the hour, so hey, let me start to tune this thing out. Thank you, Rohan, Steve, Roberto. This has been incredible. I, for one, have learned a lot, and hey, that's just me. I hope everyone listening in, I hope everyone that's been tuning into this has also gained some new insight, gained some value. And thank you for sprinkling in all those visuals, all those extra, hey, anecdotes on the codes, etc. So I'd love to see a quick outpouring in the chat. Hey, thanks for all of us getting together and doing this thing. This has been wonderful, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks for nice seeing you again.
Thanks, Roberto. Cheers.
Until next time, everyone. Take care.